are coming forward to actually run some NGOs and things. You see them stand up with boldness and say, I've gone to register my organization. This is what's happening. They're still within the church. But you know there are ministries overseas where if you go to the pastor and say, oh, you want to do an NGO and whatever, I say, no. It's going to be under his own ministry. If it's not under, say, forget it.
Or the pastor must become the president or the patron.
That's the problem. That's the problem we have today.
But it's called in my book, The Prisoners in the Pews. We have turned our church members into prisoners. That is why pastors, they view their members as prisoners, and they view themselves as the wardens. That's why the pastors tell their members that you can't go anywhere, you can't go to that conference, you can't go to that church, you can't read that book, you can't go to other places, you must be allegiant to us, allegiance to this vision or to this church. We have turned church members into prisoners. We have turned the church into the prison, and we have turned the pastors into the wardens that guard people, and they are the protector of the sheep. You are not. The people are supposed to be free, they are supposed to be independent, and their loyalty to you and to the church should be voluntary. They should show that loyalty because you're giving them something that nobody else gives them. Wonderful. That's why they are loyal to you.
God bless you, sir. And some time ago, that was over a year and a half ago, you shared a vision with me that you said God showed you where his people were in chains. And they have warders monitoring them. I don't know if you remember the vision at all.
No,
You shared something. You said it was like you saw the globe. And then Christians were in chains. And then the warders were the pastors who were policing them to make sure that they were not out of line.
Yes. Same thing. That's the same thing I'm trying to say.
Right. Now moving on. You talked about the pulpit being a counterfeit ministry. Because I want you to break this book apart so that it's easier for people who see this interview. When they read the book, it makes a lot more sense to them. You said the pulpit is a counterfeit ministry. What do you mean by that?
What I mean, you wanted to.
What also came to my mind was that about a year ago, or less than a year, I went to minister in a church in Italy, and I met this brother, who was a lovely brother. He loves God, totally sold out, but there was a problem. He called me aside. He said, "Listen," he said, "I'm tired of this church." He said, "This pastor, I don't agree with some of the things he does." He said, "But the reason I'm just waiting is because he has promised to make me a pastor. So I'm just waiting. So the moment he makes me a pastor, I'm gone." So that makes me now understand. So that's why when I saw this one about the pulpit being a counterfeit ministry, I thought maybe it ties into that sort of story. What can you tell us, sir?
Yes, I call it the pulpit counterfeit. Some people have mistaken the pulpit to be the goal of ministry. Or some people, let's say this, many people in the churches are dreaming of a day when they will also own the pulpit or become the pastor, or just like the man you are talking about, be anointed to open their own churches. So people are now have an idea that if you are going to the ministry is about preaching, or ministry is about standing behind the pulpit. That is what I call a ministry counterfeit. Now, ministry doesn't have anything to do with the pulpit, and ministry does not have to be connected to the pulpit. So if you are saying that to go to the ministry is to go and stand behind the pulpit, you get it wrong. You might be standing behind the pulpit and not have a ministry. In fact, as a matter of fact, most pastors that I know who pastor churches, have their own churches, have their own pulpits, and minister day in, day out, they don't have a ministry. Most people don't have a ministry. And they don't even understand what is ministry. So, what is ministry? Ministry is not the ability to stand behind a pulpit and say some things. Ministry is not eloquence. Ministry is not even preaching. Ministry is not even teaching. Ministry is not also doing signs and wonders. So what is ministry? Ministry is the ability to communicate the heart of God to men by touching them with the love of God. Let me say it differently. Ministry is the ability to be able to touch the heart of God with the love. The heart of men with the love of God. The ability to touch the heart of men with the love of God. The ability to touch the heart of men with the love of God. The ability to touch the heart of men with the love of God. Or the ability to cause change to happen in the heart of men. The ability to effect changes in men. Ministry, therefore, is an instrument that could be used to communicate the love of God to the heart of men. Ministry could be a tool, just a tool, an instrument that could be used to cause changes to happen in the heart of men. But there are too many pulpits now that are no more causing or effecting change in the heart of men. People just sit down, you say some things, but people are not much being changed anymore. So the pulpit is a tool. We should never mistake it to be a ministry. The pulpit is only a tool. An instrument is never the ministry. The pulpit is only one of the tools you could use. You might not use the ministry, the pulpit, and still have a ministry. My question to most pastors today is, if you lose the ability, or if you are devour the opportunity to use devoid, or whatever, what is the word?
Devoid.
If you are devoid the opportunity to use your pulpit, if somebody remove your pulpit and say you will never stand behind a pulpit again, will you still have a ministry? If they remove you from being a pastor, if your general overseer or your pastor, your senior pastor, or the government takes the license from you and they ban you from ever holding a Bible or standing behind a pulpit, will you still have a ministry?
That's serious.
If you are a minister, it doesn't even affect you a bit. You keep on having the same ministry you were having before, even when they ban you from preaching. If you are a real minister, you keep on ministering, even without a pulpit. You don't even notice that there was no pulpit. But if you are just a preacher or a teacher, as soon as they devoid you of the pulpit, you don't have a ministry anymore, because you think pulpit is ministry. That is the counterfeit I'm talking about. And some people think if they are going to the ministry, that means they are going to be able to preach sometimes or get behind the pulpit sometimes, and they think that's when the ministry begins. No. Your ministry doesn't have to have anything to do with the pulpit. Another question I would have for our pastors, people who are listening to us is, will you still have a ministry if you lose the ability to speak? Let's say not Witness Lee, what was the name of the other? Watchman Lee.
Watchman Lee, yeah.
His tongue was caught. His tongue was removed from his mouth. His tongue was removed. And after his tongue was removed, that was when his ministry exploded to the rest of the world. If my tongue, your tongue is removed today as a minister, as a pastor, will you still have a ministry? If you cannot have a ministry, and you will not have a ministry after your tongue is being removed, or you have been prohibited from preaching, then you are not a minister in the first place. Because you had misinterpreted the pulpit to mean the ministry. You had a counterfeit of ministry. So, ministry is the ability to touch man's heart with the love of God. Any means you must apply, any means you have, apply it, but make sure you are touching the heart of men. Make sure you are changing the heart of men. either through preaching or through just hugging people, or through smiling, or through clothing, or through feeding, or through visiting prisons, or make sure you are effecting a change in the heart of men. Then you have ministry. That's what Jesus was trying to say when he says, the Levite that passed by that, the good in this Good Samaritan story, when the Levite passed by, the Levite thought he had a ministry. He was a praise and worship leader. But Jesus was saying he didn't have a ministry, because ministry is about changing the heart of man. But he saw man lying down. He never even touched them. Touching man with God's love. Touching the heart of man with God's love. He never did that. But he wanted to go and sing. The priest thought he had a ministry, but he never had a ministry, because the priest passed by, never touched the heart of man, never touched man with God's love. Touch, the ability to touch the heart of man. Touch. A key word in ministry is the ability to touch. You must be able to touch. Not the touch of the body or the mind, but the touch of the heart. You must be able to touch the heart of man. Heart of man. Touch. Touch. Let somebody feel it. Your touch. Touch somebody's heart with God's love. That's when you have ministry. It could be what Mother Teresa did. It could be what Holyfield is doing by boxing. It could be anything, any means. But make sure you touch the heart of man. Touch with the love of God. You change the heart of man by touching the heart of man. That is ministry. It doesn't have anything to do with the pulpit. That's just a means. It doesn't even have anything to do with preaching or teaching. That's just a tool. Those days as instruments you use. Wow. But it's not always the most effective instrument these days now.
Wonderful. What will be with you on part 3 on the same book, Church Shift. It is very deep. And that's why I'm allowing Pastor Sunday to flow and just do his own thing. God bless you, and we'll be back your way soon. Bye for now.
300 Christians needed to change the spiritual temperature of this nation forever. Are you one of them? The Bible says creation is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. For this end time, you don't have to be a pastor or someone in a leadership position in a church to be part of this great move of God. All you need is a genuine hunger for the kingdom of God to be established on earth. Pastor Sunday Adelaja, the pastor of the largest church in Europe, the Embassy of God, is initiating a move of God in this nation called the History Makers Bible School. The History Makers Bible School takes place only on one Saturday every month to equip you for the next level. It will also be a good opportunity to network with like-minded Christians. You will receive tried and tested keys to church growth and pastoring without tears at the Emmanuel Center, 9 to 23 Marsham Street, Victoria, London, Southwest 1P 3DW. Registration is £40 per session. To register, call 0798 114 6157 or email admin@hmbsuk.org or visit the website at www.hmbsuk.org. Whatever you do, don't miss this move of God. Call the number on the screen now to register. Remember, you were called for a time like this.